Alright, so I've been wanting to read a book by Robin Hobb for a while now. I just never got around to it. So I did a little bit of research, looked into some of her series, and at first I was going to do the live ship traders. It seemed like to align with my interests pretty well. And then I was walking through the bookstore and I saw this one, so I bought it, Assassin's Apprentice, upending all my plans to read the live ship traders. So yeah, guess I'm reading this one now. And prior to reading the first two chapters in this book, I really didn't know much about it. I went in fairly blind. I think one of the things that surprised me the most was that it was written in 1995, which that's just much earlier than I thought. Because as I was reading these first two chapters, I kept thinking, oh, it was reminiscent of A Song of Ice and Fire, only to realize that it came out actually slightly before that series. So that was cool. This story, Assassin's Apprentice, is an epic fantasy that's set in an imaginary medieval world. And it tells the story of a young kid named Fitz. It starts out with his narration. And in chapter one, there's some early world building that was nowhere near as overbearing as I might have thought it would be. It was pretty limited, but it conveyed a sense of where we were. And from the very beginning, the narrator Fitz makes it very clear that that he's a very lonely person. And by the time you get to the end of chapter two of this story, you understand where some of this is coming from, and that there are like serious side effects to the magical ability in this world, which is referred to as skill. So Fitz, as the narrator, alludes to some of the negative side effects of skill, of having to take ingest drugs in order to stave off some of the harmful side effects of skill, which is interesting because that's like drugs. And it's also pretty clear from the beginning that the story that Fitz is trying to tell and write down is extremely painful for him, to the point where the memories that he has, in some cases, he alludes to being more painful than what he feels in his body from the toll that, I'm guessing, skill and maybe these drugs have taken. At least that's how I was putting it together. So Fitz is an orphan. It starts out with him. He's being brought to this Prince Verity. And oh yeah, one aside on the names. I read the first page and we're told that some of these, there's a custom or a convention, a naming convention for some of the, I guess, elites in these societies where they name themselves after like very noble traits and virtues. And Fitz, as the narrator, expresses skepticism that this naming convention or custom actually instills these virtues in the people who are given them. But I still thought it was odd when I came across the name like Prince Chivalry. I was like, seriously, is that this guy's name? And then there was Prince Regal, and that was his brother, King Shrewd. Like, what? Seriously? And then even when I realized it, like, oh yeah, no, they warned me about this on page one, I was still like, okay. I don't know, we'll see. That might take some getting used to, but it's kind of a funny aside. But yeah, back to some of the story. So Fitz, at the very beginning, is being raised basically as the bastard son of Prince Chivalry, who we don't really know that much about. It was a bit of an intriguing story, like what led him to just sort of abdicate, his right to the throne and then retire to his lavish estate somewhere far away from the capital. But his bastard son is Fitz, and he is brought to Prince Chivalry's brother, Verity, and he is basically put into a stall with some horses, and there's a few dogs, Vixen and Nosy. Nosy will be very important here soon. And, in that first chapter, there's a lot of discussion about what do they do with him, and he just kind of stays in with Burrick's animals. Really early on, when he goes to sleep in that first chapter, there's an interesting line where we're told that Fitz sort of was in Nosy's dream. Like he was chasing with him. He was he was there with this dog, as if he were having the dream too. And at first I couldn't tell, like, wait, is this a consequence of skill? And when I first thought maybe it is a consequence of skill, oh, that's rather interesting. Or is this was just like a poetic way of saying that he was already quickly bonding with Nosy and Vixen and these hounds in this stall. And we learned fairly quickly at the end of chapter 2 that this was a consequence of skill. Very dangerous consequence of skill. But for the time being, they're trying to decide what to do with him. At the beginning of chapter 2, he gets brought to Buckkeep, which is the capital city of all these 6 duchies. The 6 duchies kind of make up the world. There's a cool little map inside. I was kind of inspecting it earlier. But he gets brought to Buckkeep, and then he's basically free to do what he wants while this festival is kind of going on. And so one scene really early on is, he's always traveling with his new faithful companion, Nosy. And really quickly he encounters somebody who's kind of mocking him for being the bastard son of Prince Chivalry. It's almost like a way to tarnish the reputation of Prince Chivalry. And he uses the skill, right? He's just a 6-year-old, but he's able to use his pretty powerful skill to like throw off balance. And I can't remember exactly, but I think he knocks this guy down and he runs away. And then sort of for the rest of this chapter, he kind of just begins to every day kind of descend down into Buckkeep town. And he's kind of raised, right, just kind of like a rascal on the streets. And so he's not really raised like you would expect someone of noble birth to be raised. It's very much like fending for himself, learning how to steal, and, learning how to, bonding with the kids in this town who are also kind of rascals themselves. And so as Fitz is, wandering this town and meeting all the other kids whose parents are either drunks or not paying attention to them, he learns all about the town, and he ends up learning some skills and some traits. And I always find it somewhat funny and interesting too, how certain fantasies lionize and glorify this good, honest labor. He's learning, shipbuilding. Makes me want to go out and build a damn boat. And there are a lot of in-world events going on, but really the story's more tightly focused on Fitz and what he's doing. And the scene I really want to talk about, and maybe some of the implications for the themes, some of the stuff that Fitz alluded to as the narrator, when he's older looking back and dictating all this down for us to read, is this scene with Nosy. It was very interesting and extremely unexpected, but also very twisted and wicked too. And to be honest, I was more concerned with, some of the fights he was having with the kids. He gets into a very dire situation with Nosebleed's father, where he uses the skill on her father and almost kills this guy. But through all of this, he's developing this very deep connection with this young dog, Nosy. And I just didn't see this coming. So there's this scene where, Burek shows up into Buckkeep town and he spots Fitz and some of his friends, and they've just stolen some sausage. So they're just barreling through the town, and Burek just is angry. He gets mad. He just grabs him, and then he pays the barbecue man. And the whole time I'm thinking like, okay, yeah, no, he's angry because of this action, this incident. What Fitz is of somewhat noble birth. He shouldn't be living like this. And the way Burek describes what's happening, I really appreciated it. First off, it just came out of left field, so it was just so wild. It was unexpected. I didn't see it coming. And I thought, oh, it'll be a good connection. It shows his power. No, it's dire. It's dangerous. It's almost inhuman and bestial. And like the way Burek's describing it, it was a little, repulsive. Becoming a dog and, feeling those emotions. And you can clearly get the sense that Burek is this is repugnant to him. he can't imagine this happening to Fitz. The story doesn't hold back either. There's not like a workaround for this. Burrick just takes the dog and kills it. And I was kind of stunned by that. And it makes sense why Fitz, as the narrator, as talking about, this loneliness, deep loneliness. He has this incredible skill, so he has incredible power, but that incredible power comes at a serious cost. And that cost is you have to resist the temptation to join the minds of the creatures around you, lest you become inhuman and beast-like. So it's just an incredible amount of temptation that he has to overcome. And it almost seems the best way to go about doing that, right? Maybe the most cautious or prudent way is to just stay away from everybody. Isolate yourself. It seems like loneliness would be a natural consequence of this kind of power, right? Because imagine the toll that would have on you as, a kid, where in order to protect you, because you have such this power that can be so dangerous, you have to have your favorite pet or animal killed. The skill seems so useful in certain situations, but at the same time, the corrupting power of this skill seems incredible. And almost kind of like, and it made me wonder, like, is this why Prince Chivalry gave up and abdicated the throne? Just to kind of join some of the themes here. Like, did he abdicate? Did he renounce the throne? Because being king is kind of similar. It has this, you have all this power and there's so much ability to do good things, but the temptation, the corrupting power that comes with it is also always present. And I feel like Fitz really got a first-hand lesson in this. And it was a pretty incredible lesson, a very stunning lesson. And, I really appreciated how dark it went. The author didn't hold back. Like, there wasn't just some way to make it easy for everybody. It's like, no, this is a powerful thing. There's no other way. So you had to fight this question kind of head on instead of kind of meandering around it. And I thought that was really cool. So I'm very excited to see what happens in chapters 3 and 4. And hope this is a fun review summary to listen to. Thanks. Peace.